program. One is this devotional book. Second thing is a Bible. And third is a journal, or a notebook, whatever you want to call it. Because the intention is that you will write things in the journal. Alright? You need to set aside a fixed time. If it's an hour, whatever, but let it be a fixed time, at least once a week, to go through this, the reading that we will do. And you need to spend time discussing what the chapter says. This time that you set aside, you must arrange it in such a way that you would not be interrupted. And if possible, it must be a fixed time every week. The first element in that meeting is prayer. You need to pray for each other. And this is a must. Alright? You will notice from the devotions that there is usually a Bible verse at the beginning of each session. And those of you who have the book, you can look at it there. In the case of the first lesson, there are two quotations. One is from the Bible, and the other is your brother. A novel, Gone with the Wind. Now, these are meant to be things that you can talk about. Right? For example, week 1, the quotation is, like most girls, her imagination carried her just as far as the altar and no further. Right? You'll probably spend a minute or two talking about that later on. And then there is a quotation from the Bible from Psalms 24. May He grant the dreams of your heart and set your plans through to the end, and see your plans through to the end. Now, those are things that you talk about. You discuss it. You must have an idea or a view as to what is said, what it means, and so you start like that. You discuss the topic, and there are questions that are at the end of it to be answered. There's discussion that you will entertain between you and your spouse, because the author will be expressing certain views. How do you feel about that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why you agree? Why you disagree? There's so much that you need to talk about. And lots of people feel that they know their spouses very well, only to find out that they don't know them as well as they think they do. Alright? So you discuss the topics. You will record in your journal whatever questions you might have, whatever additional information you might want to pursue. You write that in your journal. You write in the journal whatever action you want to take. You know, there might be something that you need to do in your life, something you need to change. And the best thing is to write it down, because come next week you'll forget what you think about last week. So it's good to write it down, and you can see it playing out in your life. So that's the use of the journal. You'll also write your thoughts in the journal, because after the discussion, or so things might come to your mind as you reflect on what was read and what was discussed. And your thoughts might come into your mind. Write it down, because the next day you might forget it. In fact, a few hours after you might forget it. So write it down. There are things that you need to go over, things that you need to dwell on. So you write those thoughts down, resolutions, actions, whatever questions you have, you write it down in your journal, and we see how that develops. In class, we expect participation. Right? We don't want sponges here who will just sit down and soak as well. We want participation. You have to be involved. Right? Importantly, confidentiality. Right? You know, they got this saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in this class stays in this class. Right? We got to learn to be confidential in things. When people tell us something, we got to know where to draw the line insofar as confidentiality is concerned. So treat whatever is said here as confidential. You don't discuss it in the class, fine. Right? But let it stop there. And finally, communication. You have to learn to speak. Talk to your wife, talk to your husband. And this is very often lacking. I expect your commitment to this class, because if not, it's not going to do you any good, and it will only flatter us that we got so many people interested, and in fact, you're not really interested. Right? So you have to commit to this class and understand that what you're trying to do is to build a community here, a community that will be a support group for each one of us whenever we need that support, and we will need support. Right? No marriage can work on its own, so that you need people. Right? And if we can build that kind of community here, it will be great. It will do great things for you. It will do great things for the group, and it will do great things for the church. It will be a good example for the younger ones who are coming up behind and looking at you. And always bear that in mind, that you're not in a vacuum. Right? You influence people who are coming along, people who are looking at you. And this is what is important. Alright, as Pastor mentioned, this is not to replace personal counseling. So you need personal counseling, you know where to go for that. This is not meant to replace that in any way. But we're here to share our experiences, to be supportive of each other, and to be accountable to each other. And these are things that we will have to learn in the process of doing this. Alright, so as not to waste too much time, now that you know what we have to do. I want to look briefly at week 1. Please ensure you have the book, because without that, alright, we started that first quotation. Like most girls, her imagination carried her just as far as the altar and no further. And that's from the novel Gone with the Wind, which was made into a movie since the 1930s or thereabout. So it's a very long story. It's one of the highest grossing movies ever made. But it's important to understand what the writer is saying here, and to see how that relates to real life. Like most girls, her imagination carried her as far as the altar and no further. And as you think about your own life, and when you are at this stage, I'm sure you will agree that your focus was on the wedding more than anything else. Focus is on getting married. And you never thought what would happen in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. You didn't stop to think about that. Your focus was on the wedding, getting married. You weren't thinking about staying married. And this is what the author is trying to get over here. That this girl, Scarlett O'Hara, she was just focusing on getting married. That was what was important to her. Now, last week I read part of an article that talked about what staying married for 63 years looked like. And for those who were here, you'll recall that in the first part of the story, the girl was saying that what she was focusing on was this great day. You know, the day of the wedding, how she would be dressed up, and that was her focus, how good she would look. This would be her day, and this was where her focus was. It wasn't thinking beyond that. And this is something that is very common. It happens even today. Right? The focus is always on getting married, and it should be much more than that. The scriptural text, Psalm 24, may He grant the dreams of your heart and see your plans through to the end. Now this puts a different perspective. It's not talking about the day of your wedding day. This is talking about going beyond. Right? So you see, there's a different perspective here. God has a different perspective. He isn't just concerned with you today, the wedding day. He's looking in the long term. Alright? So, as couples, you will look at these quotations, you will talk about them, discuss it, because it's important, right? And because most of you have passed this stage before, this matter of planning a beautiful marriage, we will just go through it briefly and highlight a few things. Some of you are in the process might benefit from what we have to say, hopefully.
Pastor Patrick, one quick thing. Going back to most people focus on the wedding itself. But what I found that as well with people would say, once I married him or her, I'll change her.
Well, yes, that's something. Yeah, yes, that is true. Well, we look at all of that in the process of what we're doing. Yeah? There's so many things that we can talk about. Good. So this matter of planning a beautiful marriage. The writer sets out 10 points here that we can consider briefly and see their relevance. And for those of you who pass this way, you might see what you have omitted, and perhaps you might need to go back down that road and correct these things. All right. Let me start from the paragraph before. If I could give all engaged couples a marriage planning checklist, it would be the 10 suggestions given next. And even if you're reading this after you've said your I do's, go through the list and think about each of them. Because after your one-time big event, there is a lifelong relationship that will need constant attention. And what matters in the end is the way you and your spouse handle that relationship. So, the 10 points. 1, spend time with each other's families. Spend time with each other's families. Eat meals together, watch movies, play games. Your partner's family is about to be your family. For better or worse, it's a package deal. So it's worth your time to learn their unique family culture as much as possible before they become your in-laws. How does that sound? How does that sound? Spend time with each other's families. The truth of the matter is that we hardly spend time with each other's families. We just concerned with the partner. And families in the background. Very often we ignore the family. Sometimes the family mightn't like you. Sometimes for justifiable reasons. You see, but this is important. Remember that these people are going to be your family. Even if you don't want to consider them as your family, when your children come, they're going to be your children's family.
That's right.
And we have to learn to see marriage in this way. It's a bringing together of two families to make one family. It's not two separate families. This is my family and this is your family. And so often, this is what we find in reality. So if you haven't done it, think about it. You need to spend time with the people who will be your in-laws because they are going to be your family. All right. Second point. Read a book about marriage together. Read a book about marriage together because this is going to open your ideas to what you're getting into. Right? So often, all we're concerned about is the emotional aspect of it, this fire that is blazing. But there are serious issues that we need to consider. And one of the good ways of doing it is to get a book. A book guides you through, a process. Get a book, read it together, talk about what you read. And there's so many books that are helpful. Right? Especially if you get a book with a Christian perspective. Right? You begin to see what marriage is all about, what it is that you are getting into. Third point. Spend time with your friends. When you're crazy in love, it's easy to forget that anyone in the world exists except your incredible and unique partner. But before this big love happened, you had friends. Don't forget about them. Make every effort to spend time with them, with or without your partner. Marriages succeed in community and fall in isolation. Maintaining a close community of people is one of the best things you can do to ensure your marriage lasts beyond the honeymoon phase. You need friends, you need people. And hopefully if you didn't have them before, we can get that now. Right, but people are important in your marriage. You can't live in isolation. You need people in your life. So don't neglect your friends. They were there before, and the chances are time will come when you will need their support, their help, and their guidance in so many different ways. 4, talk about money. Talk about money. This is a very serious topic. This is very serious. Probably one of the most important thing in your marriage is going to be money. It's going to be around money. Talk about money. Money is one of the top 5 issues couples fight about most. Though it may make for awkward conversation, take the opportunity before you're married to share the details of your finances, money habits, hopes, and goals. Try your best to suspend judgment. This is a fantastic opportunity to grow together. Money is important. Money management. Think about it. How are you as a couple? How are you going to manage your money? Think about it. You need to consider what your income is going to be and what your likely expenditures are going to be like. It's important. Many people today spend more than they earn. So your expenditure is greater than your income. And you know where that is going to head. It's going to put you in debt. And debt has a way of accumulating. It grows bigger and bigger. You have a credit card and you had a balance in it, you know what I'm talking about. Right? Talk about things like that. Who's going to keep records of your finances? How are you going to know how much money you have, how much you're spending, how much is in the balance? Somebody has to keep a record so you know when you got to pay your bills, when the bill is paid. There's something they call a budget. You ever heard that term? Budget. You got to sit down as a couple and decide on your budget. You know how much money and as a couple, how much money we're getting and how much we're spending. How are we going to allocate what we're spending? If you're getting $500 a week, you can't spend $700. Right, so a budget is necessary. So you have an idea of what you have, what you can spend, how much is going to be left back. So at any point in time, you have an idea how much money you have as a couple. So a budget is necessary. If you don't know how to do a budget, get help. You'll always find somebody who can help you. A pastor could help you, and you got accountants among who could help you with a budget. It's a simple thing. You know how much money you get, how much you can spend, how much you can afford to spend. Right? We talked briefly about debts. If you spend more than you earn, you will end up with debts. And debts will continue to grow, and that will put extra stress and pressure on your marriage because it's going to lead to problems. Of course, in every financial situation, you got to think about emergencies. It's not like work $500 this week so we can spend $500. What happens next week if you become sick? So you got to get some savings. You put aside what we call a nest egg. You put that aside. You don't touch that. That's for emergencies. And it will happen. You will have emergencies. I mentioned bills. Who looks after the bills? Who's going to pay the bills? The husband, the wife? Who? Somebody got to be charged with that responsibility. It can't be anybody's responsibility. Somebody has to be charged with that responsibility, so we know, well, look, Meryl is going to pay the bills. Well, is Karen going to do the work? Who's going to pay the bills? But somebody has to be.
I mean, if you got still.
Well, that's for them to decide. You don't get involved in that. Right. So you got to decide that. These are things that you have to decide. The bookkeeping. Who's going to keep record of how much we got, how much we spending? If you get a bank statement, yes, but you know the bank statement doesn't have everything. It isn't up to date. Right? So somebody has to do that. You got to decide who is going to do it in the marriage. There are some couples who have separate accounts. You know, this is my money, that's your money. Right away I see a problem there.
Yes.
And you're going to have a serious problem if that is how you're going to view this marriage. In this country, all monies in a marriage is common. It's a common fund. So if you think your bank account is safe from your wife, and you can divorce her anytime, you got a sad awakening, because all the money is going to be combined. And what you think is your own is really not your own. It's our own. So get used to the idea that what we have in this family is our money, not my money and your money. It's our money. So you decide what kind of account you're going to have. You got a joint account, or you still want your separate account. But be aware of the dangers. And these are things that you need to talk about as a couple. If you don't talk about it before the marriage, you got problems down the road later on. So get all of that cleared, because in the process of all this talking, you can decide whether truly you want this man or this woman. And it's better that happen before the marriage than after the marriage.
Just to confirm what you're saying. Hi everyone, my name is Maritza. I'm not married, I'm here for research purposes. But especially in the dating world, you're encouraged to talk about money like it's a first date kind of conversation, because it's one of the leading causes of divorce. So you're supposed to get it out of the way, especially because it is so awkward. But what do you do if you haven't done this stuff on the first date or later dates, and you're with someone who doesn't share the same money habits as you? How do you, aside from communication, how do you handle that?
Yeah, you have to resolve that problem one way or the other. I mean, you're already married now, so what are we going to do about it? You want your account, I want my account. It's not going to work. We can see the problems there. Now, how do we resolve these problems? Right? We have to come together to resolve the problems. And we have to come on common ground. So, either we decide, well, look, this separate account can't work. So we got to have a joint account. We got to realize here we're one. And you see, this kind of, the way I look at it, marriage is bringing two people together to become one. And if that is the reality, then why must I want to hold on to something as my own and not part of the group? You see, so these are decisions that you have to come to. If you happen to get married and this is still up in the air, then you got to resolve it. Because by now, you will realize the problems you have with it. Right? So you have to resolve it.
Pastor Patrick, just to add to what the young lady is saying too at the same point. But you have sometimes people would do secretly, like they would go away shopping, go to Macy's. And the other, let's say a lady. Or let's say a man. Go to Macy's and I don't tell the wife how much I spent, and all of that's a secret thing.
Yeah, but remember earlier we talked about this budget. And somebody got to be paying the bills. somebody got to say, well, here, this is all the income you're getting and this is how the money is going. So somebody gonna be responsible for that. So it'll come up sooner or later.
Can I add something then? So maybe it would behoove the couple to sort of meet more regularly to talk about money. If you have different spending habits, then you kind of have to get to know each other and maybe. I don't know what I'm talking about, but this is how I'm not the leader of the class, but this is how I'd handle it. You try to get on the same page. You kind of try to assess your money goals and maybe try to align them if you can. If it's important to him and it's important to her, then you have to come together. But I think the communication piece is probably really important.
Exactly.
So, I mean, money is so awkward to talk about, which is why there's like a hum in the crowd. It's like, oh, what are we opening a can of worms? But that means that we have to talk about it more regularly, I guess, if you're a couple.
Yeah. And that's what Pastor Patrick was talking about, establishing that prior.
Right, but it's like most of you are married, so we're like, that ship has sailed. So, so you're not I'm dating, you're not dating. So
Pastor, what I want to say is that sometimes before we get married, you know, all of us was born in homes and families, and we accustomed seeing mommy and daddy making up the bed this way. So sometimes when we get married, the husband seeing the mother making up the bed this way, and the wife now is seeing her mother making up the bed this way. Now we can come together and say, oh, it's okay, we can leave the pillow in the old house. But where finance is concerned is not leaving it any old house. That being said, some of the houses and homes that we came from, we see that our parents have separate accounts. So we now get married and we think it's okay, we can do the same. But like Pastor said, it's danger. It's dangerous grounds that we start in our marriage in. What do we do as a couple now? The both of them have to come together and say, hey, you know what, this is not making up the bed. The money factor is a more dangerous thing in our marriage. So I think the both couples have to come together, the couple have to come together and know that this is not the way we're going to make it go, even though we came from a house that it was going this direction. This is our island, we're going to start, like I was saying, we have to do it this way, which will make us more happy, it will bring unity, it will bring peace in the house, it will bring happiness, it will bring respect, because finance can make you very well disrespect your spouse who you've been seeing for many years. So I think this is how, I'm not sure if it's the right way, but I think this is how we have to resolve it. Sometimes what we see in our home before we get married don't always be right.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I want to address this budget subject, and I want to address it from your point of view. I mean, you could have a budget if you have job security, but when you're in a position where you're fly by night and having no job security, having a budget is adds to the question. Because let's say I had a job for 5 years, and me and my wife decided we're going to buy a car now, and in 6 years I get laid off because I don't have what is necessary to keep it. That puts us in a position now where our budget gets thrown out of the window. Right? Now I know the objective of a budget is to hold a straight line. But I find that when you do that, it tends to put you in a comfort zone, and it doesn't work out in the end. I mean, Merrill may have a better chance of keeping a budget than I because he has a job that he's securing. But as for me, and I think a lot of people could and it doesn't, your job is not secured. How do you keep a budget? How do you make a budget?
Well, all right. That's not as difficult as you seem to think. Making a budget is looking at what you have and what you will spend. So if you got $1,000, well, this is how I can spend it. If I only have $100, this is how I have to spend it. So you have to adjust your budget to suit what.
No, but then you're not gonna just food, clothing, laundry, whatever, and then you have $200 to save, and you invest in a car is not a small investment. It's a big investment, and you set aside $100 from that $200 you save, and you decide to save, and then you lose your job. Then all these bills you were setting aside to pay, you still have to pay this, but now you have the car payment, so you have a job.
It's simple. You have to decide whether if you can't afford the car, well, then what are you gonna do with it?
Yeah.
You might have to sell the car. But this is not defeating the purpose of a budget. The budget
But
is
it
saying,
Pastor, because
it is not.
If
It is
if
saying,
no,
if
you
I,
pick up the car, you damage your credit. So then that damages your opportunity.
Well,
to
don't
then
buy
pay.
car in first place, do invest for transition.
you know, the thing is, a budget is looking at what income you have and what your expenditure. How am I going to spend this money that I have? You can't spend what you do not have. If you lost your job, well then,
But you go out the window, that's what I'm saying.
yeah, but the point is that there must be some income. That is what you budget.
But you can, if you have a budget and you have a fixed income and you separate it, that's what you do a budget. You have a fixed income and you spend that. You save from that. And if that is taken away, what you're spending is taken away.
Dexter,
What you're saving.
Dexter, they got big companies that cannot ascertain their income year by year, but they still have to work with a budget. You got your $200 and you say you can't make a budget? That is ridiculous. The thing is, a budget has to do with how much money you have and how you are going to spend that money.
But
So whether you got $100,
okay, you have the opportunity to have job security. I don't.
job security has nothing to do with it. A budget has to do with money here, how it's going to be spent.
I think we're getting stuck at
Yeah.
job security and the word budget.
Yeah, that is
I think that's where we're getting stuck.
That's a
It's
better-
just spending and expenditure.
But budget is something you committed to. And you committed because you have this. You're not committed to a budget because you have a budget.
But
You
they're
are
not
committed-
just.
job.
A
Okay,
budget never
right.
stays. You always have to revisit that
Alright,
and constantly adjust it.
Have the job.
Always.
Okay, so here's, alright.
Alright, we need to move on that, but you should consider more about the budget. Anyhow, that's why we got to start on time, eh?
That's right.
There's one other point that I wanted to elaborate on, and that's number 8. So what we'll do next week when we started in the lesson for next week, we'll go back briefly on this point number 8 because it's important, and then we'll take the lesson for next week. So what you'll do is go ahead, week 2, read, discuss, and as I said, what we need to do. Do that, and when we come here, we'll have what we're discussing. Okay? Thank you.
And for those who don't have the course, it's available on Amazon.